What's happening, guys? So today's video is going to be concerning this workstation card I picked up. This is the AMD Radeon 6800 Pro, W6800 Pro, excuse me. And we're going to be using this to replace my RTX 3090 for the Win 3 edition card in my workstation, because I'm starting to run into the point with my deepfakes where if I wanted to go crazy with the settings, I don't have enough video memory. Even though 24 gigs is a lot, it's not sufficient for what I'm doing. So, or what I'm trying to do. So today we're going to unbox and play around with this this W6800 Pro. So hold on a second and I'll get it out of the box. We'll install it. We'll start playing with it. If you haven't already done so, please click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. Thanks. So I'll confess that I opened this earlier briefly to make sure that nothing was missing or that it wasn't damaged or anything. But it's back in the box like it was brand new and like I'd never opened it. So I haven't actually put it in the machine yet or anything. But as you can see, the box is pretty small for the size of the card. Normally, like any more modern GPUs, are usually pretty huge. This is really kind of a small box compared to a lot of them that I've bought. And as you can see, this is a 32GB GDDR6 video card, and it's blue and silver, which is pretty different than what you know, most cards are usually black, or sometimes they're white or a little, you know, red or green or something. But blue, I don't think I've seen too many times. But anyways, give me a second. I will get this thing out of the box and I'll show you guys what came with it, which isn't a whole lot of accessories, but there's some stuff in the box. And then I'll get it installed and we'll start playing around with it. So, see, in the box, it doesn't have a whole lot of going on here with packaging, but it is nicely packaged. It's just tightly in there. There isn't a boatload of extra stuff. It doesn't have a bunch of, you know, gaming-related paraphernalia or stuff drawn in the box that a lot of times you'll see when you buy, you know, like I say, gaming GPUs. It's just basically talking about professional purposes, different applications that it supports, that sort of thing. And we'll go ahead and get this out here. And it's like a piece of foam on the top. It does come with one adapter, which is why I wanted to open it earlier, to verify that it comes with this, because I'll show you guys in a second, but it's sort of a problem if it didn't come with one of those. So you can see the card nicely, neatly in the box. Just says, "Welcome to exceptional performance and stability and reliability." And it's just basically in there with a couple little foam inserts to keep it protected. And not much else comes in the box other than, I think there's hold on, there was one other thing in here. There's like a pamphlet or something. So they kind of stick it on top of the box. You have to pull it out there. And it's just like a warranty card, that kind of thing. More information. User manual is available at the URL. You can scan this kind of thing. So the reason that it needs an adapter is it's all mini DisplayPort connectors. There's 6 of them, and they're all DP 1.4 specification. But again, most monitors don't have mini DP. I don't have. I think I might have one mini DP cable around here, and I think I have one, like one of those mini monitors that I bought that can actually use that. But it's not a commonly used port on displays themselves. Like sometimes the output will be there, but you usually have to have an adapter of some kind to get that to work. So they did include one. And I'll show you that real quick, because I'm going to have to use it when I want to connect it to any of my displays. I don't have any of my displays I usually use that would have a mini DP port right on the monitor itself. So if I can get this thing out, we've got mini DP on one end. If I can focus the camera, there you go. And then on the other end we come to a full-sized DisplayPort 1.4. And that's all it comes with. So the card takes a single 6-pin and 8-pin power connection for a total of 250 watts TDP. It does have a partial backplate. For some reason they don't cover the whole card. I'm not sure what was up with that design decision as to why they're doing it that way, but that is their choice. There's no connector of any kind to do multi-GPU, so I'm not sure if there's any way to support that or how applications would really utilize more than one of them anyway. I guess it depends on the program. So if you guys are wondering why I went with this card over something else, I wanted to just SLI 3090s again, but currently I have the Kingpin, and then I have my For the Win 3 edition in my other, in my workstation, and they are not physically the same size. You cannot link them because of where the Kingpin card has the bridge connector further back down the card. I don't know why they decide to do these kinds of things, but whatever. You cannot SLI those. I had a friend, or I should say I have a friend that was going to trade me his For the Win 3 plus some money for my Kingpin, and then I could link them. The other problem is there's no 3-slot layout on this board. It's 4-slot. Or excuse me, it's a 3-slot board. I have a 4-slot bridge. There's barely any 3-slot NVLink bridges out there. They make them for the RTX Quadro series, and they do work with 3090s, but I can't find anybody that has one for sale. And I checked a bunch of sites. They're all either out of stock or never had it in the first place, and they're pretty exorbitantly expensive for a bridge. They're like $250, $300 just to link the cards together. I'd still have to use 2 power supplies because 1500 watts wasn't sufficient for that last time. Which means I'd have to put everything back in my Thermaltake case. It'd be quite the hassle to do all these things. Other things I thought about doing was switching out for a Threadripper Pro setup and selling my existing board and 3960X, because the Threadripper Pro motherboard has 7 PCI Express slots in a row, and you can arrange them however you want with the cards, so then it wouldn't matter what size bridge I had. I could have linked them together, but that would have been another fairly expensive option. Not that this card wasn't expensive, but I do have a friend at work who probably wants to buy this for enough to basically pay off the Radeon Pro. So I'm kind of trading is what I decided I'd end up going with. And because this card has 32 gigs right on it, that should be sufficient for what I'm trying to do. It will be a bit slower at training the models, more than likely, than the 3090 was because of the difference in core count. But it does have more memory, so I can turn the resolution up higher and not get out of memory errors. So I kind of found what I think is a pretty good compromise card. I was looking at the RTX A6000 Quadro cards, which have 48 gigs of memory from NVIDIA, but they're a bare minimum of like $4,500. This card retails about $2,200. With taxes and shipping, I think it was like, it's less than $2,200, but afterwards it ends up being like $2,240 with taxes and shipping or something. So still expensive, but if I can sell my existing card and cover the gist of that, then it's not much of a cost to do this trade out. So specifications for the card: 3,840 stream processors using the RDNA2 architecture. It has 60 compute units, 60 RT cores for ray tracing. So these do support ray tracing. And from my understanding, like, the gaming performance of this card is in the ballpark of a 6800 XT, but the drivers are professional drivers, not gaming drivers, and they may or may not actually work all that well for gaming. I'll have to try it. That's something I want to do with it too, is just see if you can game on it. I mean, the Threadripper plus this isn't really ideal for gaming, obviously, but it still would be interesting to give it a try, you know? So again, I'm just kind of showing off the different sides of the card here. But other specifications: it has about 36 teraflops of compute performance for floating point 16. Floating point 32 performance is 17.83 teraflops. It has 128 megabytes of layer 3 infinity cache. It does support resizable bar and or smart access memory. So I should, this motherboard, I've already got it set up for resizable bar, so I should be able to enable smart access memory in the driver for this card. And again, it'd be interesting to see if you could use it for gaming at all. Let's see, it has, again, 32 gigabytes of GDDR6. With this is ECC memory, error correcting memory, so it's a little bit different than standard GDDR6. Has, again, the 6 mini DP ports, 250 watt power requirement, and again the 6 and 8 pin power connection on the back of the card. And another thing I like about it, just like with my EVGA Kingpin card, is that they've put the power connections on the back end of the card instead of out here somewhere. I don't know why it is, but I like that a little bit better. It looks a little bit cleaner in the case. Very, very heavy. I don't know exactly what it weighs, but it's at least a few pounds. It's like a sturdy, like, I don't know what kind of material it's made out of. I guess I should look that up. But it's a heavier metallic shroud than you find on most cards, which are usually plastic, like the, again, the 3090. like you can hear me tapping on it. It's just plastic. I mean, it's a hardened plastic, but it's not metal like that. So, you know, nice. Another thing about it is it's, you know, it's 2 slots. It doesn't take up a bunch of space. Now with the water cooler on my 3090, yeah, that was also in there at 2 slots. But the original cooler on it was more like 3, and they make cards as big as like 4 PCI Express slots with big air coolers on them. So you can definitely get a pretty big card. So these are, you know, fairly reasonably sized. They're made that way, so if you wanted to put a few of them together in a system in like a server environment, you know, you could fit quite a few cards into one board as opposed to only being able to fit maybe 2 or 3. With these, you know, most boards of that style, you'd be able to fit in, you know, 4 different cards or something. And again, I'm not sure how to get like a multi-GPU environment going in terms of, because AMD doesn't support Crossfire anymore. I don't know how that works with these. I'm going to have to look in the driver, and I only have the 1 card, so it's not going to present me with an option to enable 2 GPUs for applications, obviously, if I only have the 1 card. I might get with AMD and ask them about that. I did reach out to them before I bought it to find out if it came with an accessory or not, and the guy I talked to didn't know. He said I'd have to email like their corporate office to figure out if it came with one of these, and like I'll just buy one if it doesn't. So anyways, that said, I guess the next thing I'm going to do is pull my 3090 and we'll put this thing in there and see what she does. So give me a minute for that. So you can see I got the 3090 out of there, and I've replaced the radiator up front with these 2 140mm Chromax fans from Noctua, which I bought a while back, and I think look real nice in this case. Nice and black, no RGB. I'm not a big RGB guy anymore, and so I kind of like simplistic looking, or, you know, unicolor, pretty much blacked out, and that does a pretty good job of looking like that. And I got the card out of there, and we get down to just the 2 power cables that we're going to need to put the new card in. And so I guess I'll go ahead and do that. You know, I think I had the USB-C disconnected for some reason, and I'm starting to think I might know why, which is that it might be blocking where the card has to go in, but let's find out here in a second, I guess. This is definitely not as long of a card, so it may, that's not too bad. Okay, so it's not going to be interfering with that USB-C. It's close, but it's not going to be a problem. But the problem, nope, the power's up front on this one, so that won't be an issue. On my kingpin, they're in the back, and that probably, you know, originally I had tested the kingpin in this system, so it's certainly possible that the kingpin is the reason that ended up the way that it did. So I'm going to go ahead and get this screwed in here. And I even got a little GPU brace, even though it probably doesn't need it. So I've got, where the heck did I put it? There it is. It's from some company. I don't really even know if this is their name or not. It's like one of these Chinese companies, but it's MHQJRH, whatever that means. But I got that off of Amazon the other day, and wasn't sure what I was going to do with it, but I just figured I'd get one because it was pretty cheap. It was about 10 bucks, I think, and I figured why not. So this is kind of nice. It's got a little foot pad, and there's kind of like the little portion that you slide up and down this rail, and you find where you want to kind of add stability, and you do that there. So this has got a little little screw on end here, and we're going to connect that up. My cat is playing in his box, so that's what's going on in the background there. he's wild, that cat. So this you can put on here, and it just slides up and down, and I could take it here. I got to make sure I'm not going to be impeding the fan, I suppose. That'd probably be a good idea. So maybe I'll kind of put it about there, make sure the fan is not being impeded, and I'll loosen up that screw a little bit so it can be. Kitty, what's the matter? He's getting pretty crazy tonight, guys. So I can screw that into place. It's got kind of a rubber footprint under there, so it doesn't scratch your video card up, which is nice. So I'm gonna tighten that back up. So we've got a little bit more. Tell you what, one more time here. I'm gonna try to make this a little bit. I keep messing up. I'm trying to get that bottom foot there straightened with the edge a little bit. There we go. It was kind of cockeyed there. So that's connected up. All I have to do now is connect up the power. So I guess I'll get us a better angle on that. I just had to grab a flashlight because the lighting in here isn't that great otherwise. But I want a 6-pin down here. And then we need the full 8-pin for the front up here. So I'm going to switch hands here. Hopefully you guys can see all right. Alright, so we've got our power connected. Like I said, it's kind of nice how it's on the end of the card like that as opposed to being out on the front, or like with the newer NVIDIA cards, like the Founders Edition stuff, they've got like a 12-pin that's up front here, which I think is like the dumbest design decision that I can think of in recent memory. But everything is connected. We've got some more case fans installed, so we are not going to overheat, hopefully. And I guess the next thing I need to do is power it up and make sure that it works and see if I get a display. So let's do that. Alright, so I've got the card installed and up and running, and I've run a few benchmarks on it. Actually, I actually unboxed it yesterday, and today is Saturday. But I've just kind of been taking my time with it and messing around with different features and trying it out for deep learning, for my deepfake creation, that sort of thing. It works definitely for the deepfakes. It is definitely slower than the RTX 3090, but because it has more memory, I'm able to do higher resolution settings that I couldn't fully turn on certain settings in Deepface Lab at 640 by 640 pixel resolution model, which is the highest setting that Deepface Lab will let you go, but it has certain settings you have to enable as you train the model to get the best results, and like the higher resolution you go, those other settings use exponentially more video memory to the point where I didn't have nearly enough with 24 gigs on the 3090, so the 32 gigs here seems to be sufficient, although I was already using 26 to close to 30 gigs at some point, so realistically I could have gotten, I really wanted an RTX A6000, but they're like $4,500 to $5,000. I can't afford to spend that on a video card, especially a card that I probably won't be able to sell back off to anybody without taking a big loss on it. So I did what I did. But anyways, I did run some benchmarks. So we've got Blender benchmarks, but I don't know really what to think. Like I don't really know what these benchmarks mean, unfortunately. Like it runs one called Fishy Cat, which I've seen people use before when they're when they're benchmarking different workstation processors and so forth, and it says it did that in 1 minute and 15 seconds. This benchmark doesn't really seem to do anything. It's like you run it, it asks you what you want to use. So I told it I wanted it to use my video card to do all the benchmarks. Well, then it ended up doing the rest of them with the CPU anyway, which is a little bit weird. And then it wouldn't, it doesn't actually show you anything other than a little window pops up with a little progression bar. When the progression bar finishes, apparently that's how long it took to do Fishy Cat or Coro, but it doesn't show you anything. There's not like a graphic or anything. Like when you normally benchmark, like doing like 3D Mark, for example, you normally get some kind of results out of it that show like a graphic and you watch like a character do something or dance around or like a combat scene or something like that. None of these do anything. They just do a little progression bar and then they're done. So that said, Fishy Cat, it got 1 minute and 15 seconds. I don't really have anything to compare it to either. I guess I should probably try some of these like on my other system with a 3090 just for the fun of it, but whatever. If this is useful information, anybody, great. If not, then sorry. I also tried some other tests that come with like 3D Mark that I usually do on the channel. So I've got Port Royal, which got about 7,800 points. So it does do ray tracing. It's just these are like first gen RT cores still for AMD. This is like the equivalent of running it on a 6800 XT. I don't have one of those, so I can't obviously do a direct comparison myself, but I suspect that if I had one of those, it would probably be comparable. 3D Mark doesn't even recognize this graphics card, though. They only came out last month, you got to figure, and they use, their own, special drivers from AMD that are written specifically for this card. They don't have, they're not in the database yet for future Mark products, so The card though, but I guess I didn't have it saved on this particular image, but it's capping out in these tests around 68, 68 degrees. Overnight, like if I let it run my my deep fakes, for example, those are of course utilizing the GPU at like 99 to 100% all the time. And where I've got the fans at, the GPU fan, I usually keep it at a minimum of like 2500 RPMs. It doesn't seem like it's that loud at that point, but when the card kicks up and gets again to where it's getting a little bit hotter, I have it going up to like 3200, and then it's definitely loud enough that it's noticeable. But I don't even have the side on my case right now, and it's not that loud. If I put the side on there, it'd be fine. And you can certainly turn the fan up a lot higher than that. I've never turned it up to the maximum because I know that blower fans like this sound like a freaking jet engine when you do that, but not too bad of a temperature really for the style of fan that it has. It's really running pretty nicely, and it's taking the load off my CPU to do this. It seems like a little bit more efficiently, maybe than the 3090 was, and it's using way less power to do it. You see right now it's idling at 32 watts, and actually jumped down to 25 watts. And when I'm using Deep Face Lab, which again is pegging the GPU at 100 and or 99 100%, it seems like the power, which supposedly the card can use 250 watts, but I don't think I've ever seen it get quite that high. A lot of times it's like hanging around in the high 180 range for wattage. So it's using way less power than the 3090 did, and still doing a pretty good job with the deepfakes. It's about half as fast as the 3090 to run those, but again, because of the extra memory, it's like you're sacrificing a little speed for the ability to turn the settings up more. So unfortunately, it'll take me longer to finalize some of them. But I'm doing one right now where I'm working with Patrick Stewart and different characters. I haven't decided yet what I want to fully go with yet, but I'm doing one where I'm trying to like superimpose him onto Captain Kirk, and it looks like at this resolution, it looks phenomenal. I'm really impressed with how good it's turning out. It's just taking it a while. I did like their RTX feature test, which got like 20 frames a second in. Again, it's not great for ray tracing performance in game benchmarks, but it is capable of doing it. And the image quality is excellent. It's just the frame rate isn't terrifically amazing. Time Spy, got about 15,000 in that. Seemed to run it pretty well. It was getting like 90, 100 frames a second. GPU, again, got to like the high 60s temperature. Not too bad. Time Spy Extreme, got about 7,800 points. Not too horrible there. Similar results for temperature, etc. Then they have something called variable rate shading feature test, which is something new that they added to 3D Mark. And this is in 4K, and it was getting, with VRS shut off, about 100 frames a second, but with VRS on, it gets like 180. The way it explains VRS is what it tries to do is reduce the quality of shaders on the screen, but in ways that the human eye probably won't perceive. And so, like, it's not trying to 100% balls to the walls render everything properly all the time, or it reduces quality where it thinks it can get away with it to improve performance without reducing or being a noticeable loss in quality. And I got to tell you, like with it on or with it off, I couldn't tell the difference by looking at it, but the performance, as you can see, was a massive gain. So definitely works for the benchmarks that I tried. It does, what you would expect from something like this. From something around, again, it's supposed to be the performance roughly around the same thing as the 6800 XT. For the price of the card, of course. Like for gaming, you wouldn't want to buy one of these to game with. I did do some gaming on it. Like I played Witcher 3. It was getting excellent frame rate in 4K. Like I didn't benchmark it or anything, but I didn't feel like it had dropped anywhere below 60 to 80 frames a second on max settings in 4K. And actually I have some mods still installed on this system. This is my Threadripper system, of course, not my i9 11900K gaming rig. So for using a non-gaming CPU and a non-gaming GPU, it was able to run that well. Visage is like a high graphic fidelity horror game. Ran that really well. Even like Quake RTX was surprisingly good. Give me a second here, and what I'll do is I'll load that up, and I'll show you like it can handle ray tracing even in games pretty well. So one second. All right, so I've got Quake RTX version running here. You can see it's getting pretty close to a steady 60 frames a second. on max settings in 4K. This is with the new high-res texture pack they added, etc. It's about the same performance you'd expect out of something like a 6800 XT. Maybe more like a base 6800. I don't know. I've never played with either of those cards. Not a, not a card that you're really supposed to be buying for the sake of gaming, but obviously capable of doing so. Just shoot that dude one more time. With the nice pretty reflections. Very smooth. Give me a second. Let's try some Cyberpunk, because I did try it with it, but I didn't play it for very long. So let me load that up here real quick. All right, so I'm got Cyberpunk loaded up here, 4K, and most settings are turned up. I've got ray tracing turned on medium. And I've got dynamic fidelity effects set to see if that helps us at all.
Hello. I'm Arif Iqbal, and you're watching WNS News. New details have emerged on the attempted...
I'll give it a second, because it seems like there's kind of a delay until the card kind of cranks up to full speed. But alright, well, that isn't running so hot. Could be partly because I'm recording too, that's slowing it up a little bit more. Let's play with it a little bit further, I guess. Let's tell it we can set the minimum resolution down to 50. And I get some kind of a weird flickering. Alright, seems to have straightened up. Actually, now it feels quite a bit more playable. I don't know what the deal is. Like, they have, yeah, I was going to say, they have an overlay that you're supposed to be able to use from the AMD, hold on. So we can see our temperatures and so forth, but I wanted to do the overlay to show the frame rate. And it seems like, say, it won't let me turn it on. Whenever I'm in a game or anything, it's like it just doesn't do anything. It won't let me enable it for some reason. It works outside of the game, of course, but not in the game. But if I had to estimate, I'd say it's getting around 45 frames a second, but it looks pretty good. Not ideal. You'd probably want to turn it down to like QHD or something. I think this is one of the games that's supposed to get AMD's new like DLSS equivalent eventually. But for the moment, I think you have to have an NVIDIA card to use anything like that in this game. I mean, fidelity effects like I'm using is supposed to be kind of like the predecessor to their next thing. FSR, something super resolution. I'll have to look it up. It's too late in the day for me to remember things. But anyways, that's running reasonably well. So I guess if anybody has any questions, ask them in the comment section. I don't really know what kind of tests people want to see run on a workstation card. That's why I ran Blender, and I did some of those 3D Mark tests. And I, of course, am playing a couple games with it just to see how it does. But if anybody has a specific application they'd like me to test that I can get for free or fairly inexpensively, I don't have any problem doing that to give you some idea of how good the performance of the card is. But like I say, at least for the purpose that I bought it largely was to do my deepfakes. And for that, it is working reasonably well. The guy that writes all that software I'm pretty sure that they've kind of favored NVIDIA, at least initially, but then he wrote a DirectX 12 version of the software, and it has all the same features. I don't think it's quite as fast, but it's basically designed to use any non, 30 series card pretty much. You can run off of this DirectX 12 version of the software for people who don't want to use one of those. And I would have been happy to stick with NVIDIA if, like I say, if I had more video memory on that particular card. Or if I felt like I could afford one of those RTX A6000s, but for the 48 gigs of memory. But like I say, they're very, very expensive. So again, I guess if you guys have any questions, ask them in the comment section below. If you need me to run a specific test, go ahead and ask, and I can probably go ahead and do that. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Appreciate give the channel a thumbs up. Maybe consider subscribing. And pretty soon here, I got a new CPU cooler I'll be doing here in the next day or so called a thermo siphon. So stick around for that content coming up. But thanks for watching. Have a great one. Bye.